Welcome to Bring Your Brilliance. Are you ready to find and amplify your voice? Looking to be inspired by those who are already out there making it happen? Listen in as we shine a light on those who bring their full, authentic selves to do what they love, make no apologies, and don't try to fit into other people's boxes. With your host, Carla Taylor, who, after years of being inspired by the brilliantly shining people she was meeting, decided others need to hear these stories too.
Welcome to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show here on Inspired Voices Network. My name is Carla Taylor, and I am your host. And I am excited today, and I think I'm excited every single time, but today I get to bring to you one of my absolute favorite people that I actually get to hang out with in real life too. She and I have known each other for about 10 years actually, and she's one of those brilliantly shining people that I talk about in the opening of the show even, that I have always been incredibly impressed and amazed by. And I'm so happy that she and I have actually become much closer and actually started hanging out. And she's also one of the most amazing, powerful women that I know. In fact, she just emceed an event last night, and I have such a treat to bring to you so that you can hear directly from my very good friend, Sarah Reuter. And so I've been talking a lot in previous episodes about my own living the life of my dreams and talking about that in general and living your best life. But this is a woman who truly lives her wild and wondrous life, which is exactly what we're talking about today. So are you ready to be inspired to live your wild and wondrous life? In today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Sarah, who is the Chief Experience Officer, so a little bit different E of CEO, at Elevate Travel, about how she's envisioned and created her own wild and wondrous life. Sarah has been an explorer in her own life, trying out different careers and creating multiple businesses on her journey to follow her heart and go after her dreams. She approaches everything she does with enthusiasm and excellence and creates elevated experiences no matter what she's doing. When you're hanging out with Sarah, which I get to do, you know for sure it's going to be an adventure. Sarah Reuter is the founder and CEO, like I said, Chief Experience Officer of Elevate Travel Company, a custom travel consultancy with a focus on handcrafting tailor-made, immersive, and transformational experiences to, you guessed it, wild and wondrous places. For over 20 years, Sarah has created, planned, and executed trips for groups with up to 450 participants at once all around the world. She is a highly connective, communicative leader, best known for her positive, uplifting spirit in crafting truly exceptional experiences down to the finest detail. She believes travel causes transformation. Let me say that again. Travel causes transformation, and that we have the opportunity to dream big, lifting and learning from one another in our collective experiences. Sarah recently launched a private, member-only group called the Elevate Travel Club for people who feel the same way. She is also a certified 200-hour yoga practitioner. Sarah has a 12-year-old spirited son who loves adventure and travel as much as she does, and an 8-year-old rescue beagle mix named Sissy. She is a dedicated member and ambassador for the Indy Chamber and was named the 2019 Woman of the Year for Indiana chapter of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And you can find her at her website, which is elevatetravelco.com. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for that awesome introduction, Carla.
Yes, of course. Like I said, I'm so happy that you're actually someone I've known for such a long time, and we have started hanging out together a whole lot more. And you are a mover and a shaker, and you always really have been. And I have been so impressed with you over the years. And I'm so happy for what you're doing now, because I see you lighting up bigger and bigger and doing the things that you've always wanted to do.
I am. Life is short, and or at least it feels that way as I get older, and I really just, am really all about creating this this life that, I want to live and the people I want to share it with. It's so powerful. It's so important to me in my life right now. And I feel very fortunate that I get to do what I do for work. It doesn't even feel like work. And the people that I get to do it with, even like you, you're a dear friend that I've known, like you said, for 10 years. And just the collaboration we have together with Bring Your Brilliance and Elevate Travel Company. I mean, it's just, we're very fortunate to be able to share and collaborate in the work that we do.
Well, and that's such a good point. And we've talked before on this show about the people you hang around with and how important it is to be around those people who lift and energize you. And Sarah, I have to tell you, it was so funny. And if any of you have listened to past episodes, earlier this week, Matthew Patty from Australia came into town, and we had a very small group. And in the room, there was me, there was Darla Hall, who's also been on the show, and she has Witty Publications is the name of her company, as well as the Skyline Club. Also in the room was Sonal Chef Zawari, which was on our show last week, as well as two other people that you will be meeting on the show as well. And we were talking about manifesting, and Matthew Patty is just one of the most amazing and high-level coaches that I've ever had the privilege of knowing. And every time we talked about manifesting and all of the different things to do, I was like, Sarah already does this. This is Sarah. That's what Sarah does. I mean, you were in the room even though you weren't physically in the room that day, but I kept thinking of you and even bringing up your examples from your life, which I'm so excited now to be able to share here today. So I know you've got a million stories about what you've manifested because you really live your life this way. So I'd love to start at the very beginning, and I actually do this with all of my guests. Like, where did you start in your career, and how did you get to here? And let's kind of talk about the journey that got us here, and then we'll talk more about what you're doing now.
Wow. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, manifesting. So I didn't even realize that I was manifesting my life all the way from when I was very young. So at 16, so just to give you a little quick backstory, grew up in pretty humble beginnings. My parents, who loved me so beautifully, and my siblings, I'm one of 4 kids, they divorced at I think I was a freshman in high school, and around that time, it was a really challenging time for me just with being, a young woman and my parents splitting, and, times were tough. And so I think I started to kind of visualize a life I wanted to create because I felt, very down and out and excluded and lonely and uncertain of, who I was in the world when I was this young girl. And so at 16, I remember one day I went into my mom's closet, and at that time, I think she was waitressing at what was used to be the Adams Mark Hotel in Indianapolis. Do you remember that hotel by the old terminal?
Yeah, it was right there by the airport.
Yeah, and so, we were living with my grandparents, I think, and I threw on my mom's one and only business suit that she owned, and I just had this vision. I always loved being around the airport. My dad was an air traffic controller, so I did grow up in these, this airline and aviation world a little bit. And I put her business suit on. I put her high heels on. I had braces. Let me explain to you, too, a little bit what I looked like. I was this really slight, narrow, tall, big hair, 90s hair, right? It was that my hair couldn't get any bigger. Braces, glasses.
Oh, I've seen the picture of what you look like at that age. It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty unbelievable. So, this little girl I think I borrowed my mom's car. I don't even know. I did have my license. I think I had my license. Maybe not. But I borrowed the car. I get in her suit. I get her, this briefcase, and I drove to the old Indianapolis International Terminal. And I just was pretending like I was this successful businesswoman who was going on a trip and confidently walking through the airport. Now, this was back when you didn't need an actual ticket to go all the way down to the gate. And so I went through security. I was going on a trip. And, times were tough financially back then, too. I had never been on a jet at that point in my life. I'd never been on an airplane or traveled anywhere at 16. And here I was manifesting. I didn't realize it, but I was manifesting this life I wanted to live. And, that was pretty funny, wild experience. I didn't even think about that until I did that event the other day and shared that story about living the life of your dreams. And here I was, this young woman that I knew there was something in me that I, wanted to go and explore and adventure. And so, I went to college after graduating high school. I went to college at Indiana State University and eventually made my way to their aerospace. They have a great aviation program there, and I ended up majoring in aerospace administration. And then, after I graduated, here I was, in Indy. At that time, Indianapolis' hometown airline was American Transair, ATA, also Ambassador Travel Club. They were one and the same. And I went to work for Indy's hometown airline to start out my career. And I actually started out as a secretary. I was really just eager to get into the corporate world, and I really wanted to get my foot in the door. I kept hounding. I'll never forget the HR manager. I called her every day. I just wanted a job. I wanted to work. I wanted to get in the door. So
wow,
I
that's
started
tenacity
out,
and persistence right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Then later learned, hey, I maybe should have waited for a position that was more my fit. But coming in as a secretary, an admin assistant, was so beneficial for me, really, because I learned so much in that role, and it's who I essentially end up working with a lot with the work I do today. Our executive assistants and admin assistants. So that was a phenomenal way for me to enter my corporate career.
Well, yeah, and really have that perspective to know exactly what it's like in that role too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you wear a lot of hats, and there are a lot of things that get put on your plate that you're like, okay, I can do this. Let me figure it out.
Yeah.
So, So, and continuing with, just work my way through corporate America, I eventually landed at Ambassador Travel Club. And I was at, ATA, Ambassador Travel Club, for 10 years until the company went through bankruptcy. And that 10-year journey in corporate America at ATA was just fascinating for me. It was like working with a family. I'm still so connected to so many people in, that arena that, we've all kind of gone out and have done other things in the world with career, but just a great company culture. It was just unbelievable. Yeah. And a lot of people remember Ambassador Travel Club and what it did for them, as far as creating these journeys and taking them out of Indianapolis and going to places all over the world. It's just phenomenal to have that here in Indianapolis as a young woman.
Yeah, that was a big thing back then. Like, I knew so many people in ATA and Ambassador Travel Club. Was like everybody was doing it and talking about it. It was really a big part of Indianapolis's community culture.
Absolutely.
Like
and something people continue to crave today, it's just something that was very special to a lot of people.
So I want to pause here because I know there's a lot more awesomeness to your story, and I want to make sure we have full time for that. So let's go ahead and go to break, and when we come back, we will hear the rest of the story of Sarah's career journey, and then I want to hear a lot more about the other journeys and things that you're taking to all these fabulous places and just all of the things that I'm so excited to hear about this morning. So again, my name is Carla Taylor. I'm talking to Sarah Reuter with Elevate Travel Company and Elevate Travel Club, and we are here on the Bring Your Brilliance radio show on Inspired Choices Network, and we will be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune in to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message? The world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show. My name is Carla Taylor. We are listening here on Inspired Choices Network, and right before the break, we were talking to Sarah Reuter, who is sharing with us your fabulous story, Sarah, about going to the airport dressed in a suit with a briefcase. I mean, that's just so awesome that even at 16, you were already figuring out that you needed to imagine yourself there. And that's where you are. Like, that to me still blows my mind that you had that much clarity and vision at that age, and that's exactly what you've been doing in your career, which is what we're talking about now. So you got us all the way through college and getting to ATA and the Ambassador Travel Club, and as you mentioned, they did end up going through bankruptcy and shutting down. So what happened next?
Okay, so next, I continued on in the world that I was living with travel. At that time, I was a sales manager, and I would work with corporate clients locally in Indianapolis who wanted to create these customized trips on our charter jets, on our charter airplanes, and, have these unique experiences for maybe their clients or their employees. And so I went to work for another company that bought Ambassador Travel Club, and then I found out that I was going to be having a baby. And I always say, once I had my son, my that just turned my world upside down. And I say maybe it was the hormones. I don't know. It made me do something crazy, but it was actually between me having my baby and having some clarity about where I was in my life. And I also had a coach at that time. And I'm such a big advocate for hiring coaches because they have completely helped change my life and transform my life. It's something that's been important to me, since I've started my career. But my coach at the time, she was my business and sales coach, and, she really inspired me in a class that day. It became very clear to me. She didn't even know she was speaking to me, but it was time for me to start my own journey and start my own business. And that's, when I jumped ship and decided to, continue doing what I loved, but really doing it, on a more, just a more dedicated basis as to what my visions were and who, the clients that I wanted to work with and the experiences, the types of experiences I really wanted to create. So that was back in 2007 or 2008 that I started my business.
And that is one of the things that I have observed about you over the years, and I so love about it. Like, you are not just somebody who envisions and manifests what you want, but you take massive action and you go after it. Like even what you were describing with calling the HR person every day, like, you have such tenacity and persistence, and you really go after it. And that's part of why I love coaching, and coaching is a huge part. I am a coach, and I have coaches, but even there, you are like the stellar A player of the coaching game, where you do everything they tell you to do and you make it happen. And that's another point, I think, is that we get out of things what we put into it. And a lot of people go through coaching and they may get mixed results because they're, putting in mixed things. But, oh no, not Sarah. Sarah, you go after it and go for it. And that is amazing.
Thank you. I'm commitment and accountability are two words that resonate deeply with me. And, when I commit, I am 2 feet in and I go. I go for it, and I am persistent, and I'm dedicated, and I give it my all. That's just, I think I was just born into the world that way. And, I say that, and yet we all get off balance, right? I get 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out for 4 years. And from 2015 until, the last, basically, there was a 4-year chunk of my life where I, got away from the travel industry and, I became a caretaker for my mother, who's doing amazing and has, beat a lot of odds with stroke and seizures and brain tumors and all that nasty stuff. But I, got on this path of, out of travel, and then I created other businesses that I was passionate about, which were in the food and in the yoga arena. So I kind of call it my eat, pray, love journey. Where,
that's actually a great
tried
point.
out, I wanted to dabble into other things that lit me up. And, one of those was, the yoga and in line with manifesting. I mean, there's so much I've learned through the yoga practice about mindset and being mindful and meditating, and that I get to bring to the table with my business now. And then, the food arena, that was a fun stretch that I did with Artisan Picnic that had great momentum, but I got physically injured. I was, lugging around cases and cases. I was setting up, farmers markets and loading up tents.
A lot of
and
hard work.
Doing all this. It's a lot of hard work. And I blew out my back. I herniated 2 discs and, became physically impaired for a while. So all of it led me back to travel is the point of where I'm going. I was even in the food industry, I was creating.
We skipped over the first part of you had just left off, and I kind of jumped ahead with a coaching comment that I made, but you were in 2007 and all of a sudden we were in 2015. So let's talk a little bit, because you had the coach who said, go start your first business, or she didn't say that exactly, but you took that to be like, okay, I've got my son. It changed everything. I'm going to start my business. And then we didn't finish that part of the story. So if you wouldn't mind jumping back real quick, and then we can keep going forward.
Absolutely. So 2007, or it might have been 8, until 2015, I was an owner with 2 other, sometimes 3 other women. We specialize with customizing incentive travel. And, I did that for about almost 8 years and continued to work with, again, a lot of locally owned, privately owned companies in Indianapolis who were wanting to create, their rewards trip, their incentive and reward travel. And that was really our main core of business at that time. And then in 2015, that is when it was just time, to maybe shift gears but what I didn't realize was coming was that I mentioned this, my mother, we found out had some health issues. And luckily I was in a scenario where I could step back for a while and, be there to advocate for her and make her my main priority for about 2 years. But in those 2 years, that's when I decided to start 2 other businesses because I was bored, taking care of my mom wasn't enough. I needed some other things to do.
Yeah. Well, and you had a wonderful success. You guys were a multi-million-dollar company. You were co-owner of this. You got bought out from that. So you're kind of like, skipping over some of these things that are pretty darn impressive. And that's part of why you could step out there for your mom as well, because you were so successful and you are such a go-getter. And I know you're in the process of, you did a lot and I knew you we were in the same mastermind group actually when you had Artisan Picnic, and I was just month to month amazed at the things that you were doing and the partnerships you were creating and all of the ways that you just brought so much excellence to everything that you did. And so now I won't preempt you. I'll let you tell the rest of the story, but you do things to such a high level with such a high amount of success. And so I want to make sure our listeners know that, you weren't just dabbling in some of these things. You really were a powerful business owner of a really incredible business, and you still are.
Thank you. Yeah, I pour my heart and soul into everything I'm doing, I guess back to that life is short motto that I really feel like, I want to live every day like it's my last, and I want to pour my heart and soul into everything that I do. It's important to me, really important to me. So yeah, I did, during that 8-year stint, we started from zero to, I think we were running at a little over 3 million that we were doing in business. And it was a wild, fun ride. And, now since I've launched Elevate, so Elevate Travel Company launched in 2000. It'll be 2 years, actually. 2 years, March 13th is our 2-year anniversary. So 2018 is when Elevate Travel Company launched. Yeah. And, I've really wanted to do things a little differently at Elevate. And, I still am very much grounded in the group travel management. That's the core of what we do. But the uniqueness is that, I really, we put people and we put purpose in people at the core. And, we do that to serve as a catalyst for changing lives. Because I know from personal experience that travel causes transformation. And I want to help the companies and the groups of people that I'm partnering with to experience that, during their reward trip that they've earned, that they've worked really, really hard for. And so that's really, been my main kind of differentiation of how Elevate is just kind of raising the bar and taking it to the next level about, really creating these immersive and transformational experiences for corporate retreats and incentive and reward trips.
That is so awesome. And that's one of the things, too, the firsthand view of these fabulous trips to fabulous, wild and wondrous places that you get to go to and take people to. And I'm always so excited to hear about the next thing or see your pictures from incredible places. There's so many cool things that you get to be a part of. And I want to hear more about that. We are actually going to take a break right now. But when we come back, I want to hear more of your story. I already feel so inspired, even though I personally know you, just kind of walking through this with you, and hopefully our listeners are also feeling so inspired to grab life by the horns and just, hang on and go after it and ride, full charge into the future, which actually sets us up for one of your stories I think you might be telling us when we get back. So again, my name is Carla Taylor. This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show and podcast. We are here on Inspired Choices Network talking with Sarah Reuter from Elevate Travel Co., and we will be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune in to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Do you struggle to answer what do you do because you do many different things? Do you want your future clients to know, like, and trust you? Do you want to make LinkedIn work for you? If you're ready for extreme clarity and confidence with opportunities flooding your LinkedIn inbox, Carla Taylor's Bring Your Brilliance coaching, masterminds, and workshops give you the exact steps to get it done. Don't have time to do it yourself? Carla's LinkedIn content ghostwriting service is exactly what you need. Schedule your free consultation today at bringyourbrilliance.as.me or go to bringyourbrilliance.net.
This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736, or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show on Inspired Choices Network. My name is Carla Taylor. Today we are talking about Sarah Reuter's wild and wondrous life, and we're getting to hear all about her fabulous journey. And before we jump back into that story, I just wanted to give everyone the heads up of what's coming up for Bring Your Brilliance. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be launching the Bring Your Brilliance Mastermind. I've had a lot of my own travel earlier in this year, so that's pushed back my start date a little bit, but we will be starting in mid-March. And if you are a business owner or a career professional who's in the midst of taking the next step and figuring out what that is, or knowing what it is but wanting to do it where you're fully bringing your own brilliance and you understand or need to understand your gifts and talents and where you should be spending your time versus delegating or having other people spend their time, and ready to go after it, much like we got to hear from Sarah this morning about actually doing the things that we talk about in the coaching. So this is going to be a kind of a blend between a mastermind and a coaching experience where you will get some great feedback from your peers, but it's going to be a very intense, focused one. So it'll be 6 weeks, meeting every week with the mastermind itself as well as with me as your coach. And so you will transform during this time, especially if you put into it the types of effort that Sarah brings to everything she does. So I'm very excited. This is, again, going to be a very small group, and I've still got a few spots left. So reach out to me, Carla Taylor. You can reach me at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. You can also set up a 15-minute phone call with me directly at bringyourbrilliance.as.me, and that will actually connect you directly to my calendar where you can set up a 15-minute phone call. We can chat about the mastermind or anything else. If you're interested in LinkedIn strategies, if you want help with anything that you're working on, I am happy to help you with your authentic personal branding, any of those things, ghostwriting. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help anytime. And Sarah, tell us what's coming up for you and how people can reach you as well.
Okay, so coming up for me, you can reach me, visiting my website is probably the best way at www.elevatetravelco.com, or Sarah at elevatetravelco.com if you want to email me directly. Coming up for me, Elevate Travel Club is fairly new, and it's really exciting. We've got this community of about 149 members that we are working on creating these immersive and transformational travel experiences for the leisure traveler, okay? So it's really exciting, and we're going to be announcing, we've got a private Facebook group, and we're going to be announcing soon a launch party, and then launching at that launch party the destination that we'll be able to travel to in 2020. So that's pretty exciting.
Woohoo! And who was your number one travel club member?
I think it was Carla Taylor, right? Yeah, I know. Wasn't that awesome?
Wow, she's so awesome.
I know. You are the number one Elevate Travel Club member. It really is. It's so back to.
I was very excited to have that spot.
I know. You've got seat number one, girl, for sure. We're going to be doing
That's right.
The
front of the
things.
plane.
Yeah. Front of the plane. And our themed trip this year is called Awaken. So it's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yay. Cannot wait for that. Okay, so back to your story. We were just talking about that you're actually good, and also coming up on your 2-year anniversary for Elevate Travel Co. And I left us off with the analogy of grabbing life by the horns, and I had a specific reason for saying that. So we could jump into that story if you want to give us a little bit more information leading up to that. But I'd love to focus now on what it is you're doing now and some of the most awesome experiences that you've had already, either great trips or manifesting in action. I'd love to hear some of your stories.
Awesome. Yeah. So I really have to start writing these things down, because a book is probably something that would help me pull all this together on my wild and wondrous trips. I've had so many amazing journeys with crazy things that have happened, like earthquakes in Italy during a yoga retreat that I went on by myself, for myself. Here I wanted to really, do something kind to, have some self-care and shake it up, right? And so this what was I envisioned being this most, really relaxing and meditative yoga retreat in Tuscany became really, a test of faith for me, because it was really one of the scariest things I've ever been through. I've never been through an earthquake. Actually, I have in Indiana. We have some fault line here in Indiana, but nothing to that extent. And so, that is a whole story in itself. Iceland, oh my goodness, the Northern Lights, that was such an amazing phenomenon to witness and be a part of. And,
totally on my bucket list. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness, just unbelievable. But even the simplest things of like my first international trip wasn't until I was 21 years old, and I think I don't know, maybe graduated college, but I went on Ambassador Travel Club trip and I went to Jamaica, and that was my first real, like, I can still see myself leaving the hotel. It was up on this bluff, and I'd walked down. It was in Ocho Rios. I'd walked down, and we walked through this, like, basically a garden, but it was a natural landscape garden of, fruit trees and just lush vegetation. I walked to the beach, and it was this very remote area. It wasn't a very touristy area at all. And I remember a few of the locals would just, they'd stare at me and they'd come up and they'd touch my hair. These little girls, we'd sit in the sand and on the beach, and they'd touch my hair, and they're like, "Why are you so white?" And just that, the feeds. I remember that trip. So in the beautiful turquoise water. Oh my gosh, it was the first time I'd ever seen, that Caribbean blue turquoise water. But what I love the most about Jamaica is the authentic people, and how, they would really tell you what they thought of you. And it wasn't this surfacey kind of like, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" It was, I remember being seen by a complete stranger for the first time, feeling seen and understood for the first time in my life on that journey. Wow. As I was walking through the town, and this Rasta man, we're just passing each other on a walk, and he said, "I see your strength in your walk." And I'll never forget that. And I remember just thinking, whoa, that's kind of cool. And then I also thought, maybe I should probably get back up to the hotel, because I'm a young gal by myself and I'm kind of wandering around the street. Maybe I'm glad he thinks I'm strong, right? So, anyway, I've had some just both, personally, individually, as I travel, for vacation. And now, my travels consist of, a lot of times, we talk about work-life balance a lot, and you do that a lot, Carla, with your life. And
yes,
I think a lot of people
use the word balance. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I talk about it as work-life integration,
work-life
because it's
integration.
how we blend it all.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely.
And so, and leading in with, taking life by the horns, right? So to kind of go to this dude ranch story I want to share with you. Is it a good time to transition to that? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Go for it. I can't wait to hear the story.
So I have always loved, I love the Wild West. I love the outdoors. But my work-life integration, I'll go ahead and adopt that term, because I do feel that's a proper way to really incorporate it into your life. But, when I travel now, it's, I want to take my son with me. I want to spend as much time with my son that I can. He's 12 years old. He's getting ready to be a teenager, and I heard from so many parents that they just kind of start to dwindle or, disappear from your life, and you're not as important, right? And so I wanted to create this experience where I could go on a trip with my son and also perform a site inspection at, a facility that would be a good fit for a corporate client that, I work with. And so I comboed up, this vacation / site inspection in my mind, right? And then on 11/11 of 18, 11/11 is a big manifest day. I don't know, that may sound a little woo-woo for people, but I believe it. And I on 11/11/18 I wrote down all these crazy things on a strip of paper, and I folded them up and I put them in a mason jar. And I was just writing down, whatever came to mind without thinking about how or when or how much money or time it was going to take to do any of these things. And I closed that jar up, and then 2019 began. And I had been nominated by a former client to become a candidate for a fundraising campaign with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society called Man Woman of the Year. And I accepted the nomination, and so that journey began in March of 19. And it was a 10-week philanthropic fundraising campaign, and it ended in May. And because of my awesome, dedicated team and because of donors out there in my community and corporate sponsors, I was able to accept the Woman of the Year trophy and title, and we raised over $93,000 in this 10-week period. And
well, because of all of those
I'm
things
bringing
and your incredible dedication and hard work, and I watched you knock that out week after week. You were unrelenting in your pursuit of that. So yes, it was all of those things that you created with your hard work and effort. Just to point
Thank you.
Out.
Thank you. When I met the kids, there were kids that, the boy and girl of the year, when I met the kids that were literally had just finished up treatment and rang the bell that they were cancer free, it's just, I knew I could do something to help and make a difference. And like I said, when I commit, I go all in, right?
Yeah.
So that campaign ended in May, and I was exhausted. I mean, my bucket was filled up and empty. I just needed some rest. I know that doesn't even make sense, but I had really given it my all. And my son came to me.
Oh, you did. It makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. My son, it was the end of his school year, May, and he came to me and he's like, Mom, I have some raffle tickets I need to sell. My school's doing this end-of-year fundraiser. And I look at him and I said, buddy, honey, I have tapped out every single person that I know in Indianapolis and all the way to Monaco, right? I said, how much are the tickets? I'm just going to buy them myself, and we're going to create something special with the money that we win. Carson, how much is the raffle, or, how much do you win? And he said, $5,000. I said, awesome. Okay. So I bought all 8 tickets. And from that moment on, Carson and I both decided we were going to manifest winning that $5,000. And we went even further to plan what we were going to do with the money. And I've always wanted to take Carson on this Wild West Dude Ranch trip, and they're expensive. They're really something you have to save up for if you're doing it as a family or for a corporate retreat. It's quite a big, not a big expense, but it's worth every penny and then some. So anyway, so I really tap into winning that money, and guess what? I get a call one day, and we won that raffle. We won the money. And Carson and I booked the trip. So, yeah, we booked our trip, and it was at a dude ranch.
And I want to pause you for a moment, because you didn't just, think about it and tap into you told me how much you went to the great lengths to visualize it. So I want you to tell that part of the story, because that's actually what I think makes all the difference of how you said, I'm going to win it, and you won it. But you didn't just, think that once or twice. Tell us a little bit more about how actively you manifest things, because that is part of what's so amazing. And I really want you to share that part with our listeners.
So every night, Carson and I, we eat dinner together. That's our family time. And so every night we would pray, and we would like throw our hands up and we'd be like, yes, we're going to the Dude Ranch. And we'd really get emotional about it, excited and just grateful and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is so awesome. And at first he thought I was crazy, but then he kind of joined along and, in the fun with pretending and imagining. And we did that every night. We broke bread together every night at dinner. And then at the actual end of at his carnival at the end of the year, where they were still collecting or, doing the fundraising to get people to buy those tickets, I remember being with my sister, and we were I was talking about it. I was telling her about how we were going to win this raffle. And I was throwing my hands up at the carnival and jumping up and down. And I was like, yes, she thought I was crazy, but she started jumping up and down with me. She joined in on the celebration. And that, to tap into feeling the emotion and going to the end of receiving that money and to go on with this experience I knew I wanted to create with my son, that is what we did, for several weeks before we got the call. And so when I got the call, I was surprised because I was excited, but I also had this inner knowing of wow, we just did that,
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually the story that I brought up because I told you in the room with Matthew Patty, he was talking about the process of manifestation and that the thought, and a lot of people just do the thought, and the thought sends the energy out, but the feeling and the imagining, new word, the imagining, the imagining and fully experiencing the emotions of the feelings of it, the feelings and emotions are actually what magnetize it to you. And so the fact that you went full on and did all those things that you just described is exactly why it came to you and happened. And like I said, I kept bringing you up as examples of manifestation in action because it's all those actions that go along with creating that experience to really become true in your life. So that's the point I was so happily leading you to, because I've heard this story and I've understood now even actually why that worked. And so I love that you are such a real life example of all of these things.
It's pretty powerful, and I continue to be so grateful. And that trip was by far one of the most magical trips I've ever been a part of, and that I got to share with my son was just the biggest gift ever. So yeah, it was pretty great. When I asked Carson what what was your favorite part, and his comment back to me and feedback was so beautiful, because I thought he'd choose one specific thing, horseback riding with, my horse Thunder, or mountain biking, or whatever, some kind of isolated experience. But he said, Mom, getting there. And so he appreciated the journey, literally from the time we started manifesting together to the time we booked the flight and booked the trip and then got on the plane. And, I watched him look out the window and watch beneath him and get the rental car and make the 2-hour drive through the mountains. And he was like a dog with his head out the window with his mouth open. He truly enjoyed the journey.
Yeah. That's awesome. Of course he
Isn't
did,
that
because he's your son.
beautiful reminder?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it was a great,
Definitely.
Great reminder for me. Yeah. Sometimes I can get too caught up in going to the end, right?
But it really is about the journey that we're on and celebrating every day. And even the gratitude part that you mentioned is another huge element of it, and having gratitude not only for what you have, but for what it is that you're calling in, and like I said, fully experiencing it as if it's already true, and having the feelings and the emotions and the gratitude of that already being true, and then it just gets to be true. And that's part of what we talked about, is you can do that in so many areas of your life. And Sarah, you're such an incredible example of doing this with your business, doing this with your son, with travel. Like, there's so many places that I've firsthand watched you really bring this into action. And so I know we're already very close to the end of our show. I do want to hear, what would you tell people, 3 things maybe that you would leave them with, or if it's just one thing, whatever that is, but what would you tell people as we are about to end our time with you? What should people in the world know about what you would encourage them or remind them, or if they just remember one thing, whatever that is, what would be your words of wisdom to leave us with?
So, there's that quote, book the trip, buy the ticket, buy the shoes, eat the cake. I feel that way about travel, and that people, we're worthy of creating these dream trips. Whether it's for you as an individual or for you as a company that you want to create this immersive brand experience for keeping your clients loyal or your employees happy. Go for it. Book the trip, and that's make the first step in sharing your intentions. And I really serve to navigate. I am the navigator. I want to connect and listen, and sometimes challenge people's perceptions, maybe renew your view, improve your process, and really create these meaningful, transformational, immersive experiences.
Awesome. Well, and that's what people get when they book with you, Sarah, is not just the trip itself, but all of the things that we've been talking about today, and the journey even to get to the trip sometimes is a huge immersive learning experience for people as well. So thank you so very much for sharing. Again, remind us of how people can reach you and what next step they may
you can reach me
to move forward with you.
Sure. So my email is Sarah, SARAH, at elevatetravelco.com. Feel free to reach out to me via email. Our website also is a great resource, elevatetravelco.com. Those are probably the 2 best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for your time. I so appreciate you coming and joining us and inspiring, for sure, me every time I'm around you, but also hopefully our listeners are also very inspired to understand what it really looks like in action to go out there, enjoy every bit of the journey along the way. I know you're just at the very beginning still of yours, because every day with you and for you is such an adventure. And speaking of adventures, again, if you want to bring your brilliance, no matter what you're doing or where you're traveling, you can reach me at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Go out to bringyourbrilliance.net to learn more about all the ways and the things that I can do to help you, as well as bringyourbrilliance.as.me to book a 15-minute call with me, and we can talk through whatever it is that you're interested in and figure out your next step with you on your journey to bringing your brilliance and being your full authentic self. So I'm also excited, like I mentioned earlier, about our upcoming mastermind group that will be starting in March in the next couple of weeks. So please, if you have any interest, join me for that. And then we've got some fabulous next guests. The next show, of course, next week is going to be my Strategies for Success session that I do at the beginning of each month. I've also got, I'm so excited, Mark Metry is going to be joining me on the show, and he is one of the top podcasts in the world. He's got millions of followers. I am so excited to be able to bring him and have that interview coming up very soon. So we've got a fabulous lineup of guests. Sarah, you were an absolutely fabulous guest. Thank you again so much for being here. And remember to go out there and be bold, be brave, be brilliant, and be you. And enjoy the
Thanks
journey
for listening to
and the
another
elevated
episode
journey
of Bring Your
that you're
Brilliance with
inspired
Carla
to.
Taylor. For the latest updates and info on personal branding, please follow and interact with Carla Taylor on LinkedIn. And be sure to visit www.itstimetoBringIt.com. Join Carla Taylor every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then,